Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something real quick. If you're still calling your man baby, honey, boo, or all those little sweet names, you might be playing it a little too safe. See, every woman knows how to pull a cute name out of her pocket. But if you really want a man to remember you, value you, stay connected to you, and start thinking seriously about building a future with you, then you have to speak to something deeper inside him. Ladies, listen closely, because this may sound small at first, but it is not small. It is powerful. You're out here calling every man baby, honey, sweetheart, like those words automatic carry some special meaning. But here's the truth. Those words have become so common that they can lose their impact. They've been passed around like candy at a family picnic. Everybody says them. The waitress says, "Hey baby." The woman at the store says, "Honey, can you move over?" Even your auntie might say it when she sees the mailman. So what happens after a while? The word loses some of its value. It is like giving a man a compliment that you have already given 100 other people. It may sound nice, but it does not necessarily make him feel truly seen. And that distinction matters. You see, we have turned certain words into background noise. There is nothing wrong with using a sweet name, absolutely nothing. But if that is all you have, if that is the entire way you communicate affection, then you may be missing something important. Because a man does not simply want to feel sweet, he wants to feel chosen. And choosing somebody does not always sound like, "Hey baby." Choosing somebody sounds intentional, it sounds personal. It sounds like you actually paused for a moment and noticed who he is, what he has been doing, what he has overcome, and what he means to you. And that is where many women miss the deeper connection. They think a man falls in love because of the way she says his name, the way she looks at him, the softness in her voice, or the way she carries herself. Yes, those things can matter. Attraction matters, warmth matters, chemistry matters, but those things alone are not what create lasting emotional attachment. What stays with a man is the feeling that you see him differently from everybody else. When he enters your world, he does not feel like just another person passing through. He feels like somebody you noticed, somebody you picked from the crowd, somebody whose presence actually means something to you. And ladies, that feeling can be powerful. Now listen carefully, because this is where it gets interesting. When you call him baby or honey, sure, it can sound loving, it can sound warm, it can make the moment feel comfortable. But here is the catch. Those words are often surface level. They may not reach the deeper part of him. Why? Because chances are the last few women he talked to used similar words. The words themselves are not unique. They do not tell him what you specifically notice about him. They do not reveal what separates him from everyone else in your eyes. And if you want to truly move a man emotionally, you cannot keep serving him the same meal he has been eating for years. Give him something personal. Give him something thoughtful. Give him something that makes him stop for a second and think, "Wait a minute, what did she just say?" That is the difference. Generic affection can feel nice, but personal recognition can stay in a person's mind, and that is what you want to understand. These common pet names are sometimes like music playing quietly in another room. You hear it, but eventually you stop noticing it. You say the same words again and again, and their emotional impact can become weaker. Then, something changes. He may start wondering whether he is genuinely special to you, or whether he is simply another person receiving the same treatment. Now, you may not mean it that way. Your heart may be completely sincere, but sometimes the message people receive is different from the message we intended to send. That is why words matter. When a word becomes too familiar, it can stop feeling personal. And men may be simple in some ways, but they are not foolish. They can often tell when something is coming from genuine feeling and when somebody is simply repeating a familiar script. They notice the difference between a compliment that could have been said to anybody and a statement that could only have been said about them. And let me tell you something, when a woman steps outside that familiar script, when she stops relying only on baby, honey, sweetheart, and instead speaks directly to a man's character, his effort, his strength, his heart, or the qualities she genuinely admires, he can feel the difference. Have you ever seen a man become quiet after receiving a compliment? Not because he did not know what to say, but because the words reached somewhere deeper than he expected. That is what I'm talking about. That is the kind of moment people remember. So, yes, you can still call him baby. You can still say honey. You can still use those sweet names when the moment feels right. But do not stop there. Because the real power is not always in what you call him. The real power is in what you recognize about him. And when a man realizes that you are not simply giving him affection, but actually seeing the person behind the image, the confidence, the responsibilities, and the everyday routine, something shifts. He begins to understand that your attention has meaning. He begins to feel that you are not just attracted to him, but aware of him. And ladies, that is where the conversation gets deeper. Because being admired feels good, but being understood can feel unforgettable. Stay with me here, because this next part is where most people overlook the real difference. A man can hear 100 compliments in his lifetime, but the one that speaks directly to something he has struggled to express can stay with him for years. Maybe you notice how hard he works, even when nobody thanks him. Maybe you recognize the discipline it took for him to keep going after disappointment. Maybe you see the way he protects the people he loves. Maybe you notice the patience he shows when life is not going his way. Those are not generic compliments. Those are observations. And when you tell somebody what you genuinely see in them, you are giving them something far more personal than a nickname. You are telling them, I notice you. That is a powerful message, because everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants to feel that their effort matters. Everybody wants to know that somebody sees more than the surface. So if you want your words to carry more weight, stop thinking only about what sounds romantic and start thinking about what feels true. Do not force it. Do not turn it into a strategy. Do not say something just because you heard it works. Say what you actually believe. Speak from observation. Speak from sincerity. And when your words are genuine, you do not have to make them complicated. Sometimes one honest sentence can carry more emotional weight than 20 cute nicknames. That is the part people miss. It is not about finding some magical phrase that controls a man's feelings. It is about learning how to communicate appreciation in a way that is personal, honest, and meaningful. And when you do that, you are no longer simply giving him a label. You are giving him recognition. You are saying in your own way, I see the man you are becoming, and believe me, that can land differently. So keep the sweetness, keep the laughter, keep the playful names if they belong naturally in your relationship. But do not let those names become the entire conversation. Let your words reveal that you have been paying attention. Let them show that you recognize the things other people overlook. Because when somebody feels genuinely seen, they do not just hear your words, they remember the feeling behind them. And that is the part you should never underestimate. Sometimes the smallest sentence, spoken at exactly the right moment, can stay in somebody's heart longer than you ever expected. So if you really want to make your presence meaningful, do not simply ask yourself, what should I call him? Ask yourself something much better. What do I see in him that I have never seen in anybody else? Now that is a question worth answering. Because once you know that answer, you do not need a perfect nickname. Your words will naturally become personal. They will naturally become memorable. And that is when affection stops sounding like a routine and starts sounding like recognition. Remember that. It may be the simplest shift you ever make, but it can completely change the way your words are received. You can keep using honey, boo, sugar pie, and all those sweet little names if you want, but if you really want to shake something inside him, if you really want him to remember your words long after you have left the room, then you have to move beyond the ordinary. You have to say something that reaches his chest, not just his ears. Because here is the truth, words carry power, but only when they are genuine. And baby just does not carry the same weight anymore. Not if you are trying to become the woman he cannot stop thinking about. Not if you are trying to speak to something deeper than his smile. You want your words to reach his heart, not simply make him feel good for 5 seconds. Let everybody else use baby and honey like loose change. You save your words for something with more meaning, because when you truly value a man, you do not have to speak to him the same way everybody else does. You speak from what you actually see, and that difference can stay with him. Let me tell you something important. because this is where many women get confused. A lot of women believe men are constantly searching for praise, attention, compliments, and sweet talk. They think a man will automatically remain loyal because she calls him baby every night, sends heart emojis all day, and tells him how handsome he is every chance she gets. But no, that is not the whole story. You can flatter a man from morning until midnight, but if he does not feel emotionally safe with you, eventually he may begin searching for that sense of comfort somewhere else. Not because every man wants to betray somebody, not because every man is unfaithful, but because men are human beings too. They need a place where they can breathe, and emotional safety can sometimes mean more than endless compliments. See, many women do not realize how much weight some men carry every single day. There is pressure from work, pressure from family, pressure from responsibilities, pressure from expectations, and pressure from the mistakes and disappointments they still remember from their past. And out in the world, a man is often expected to keep his guard up. He has to appear strong. He has to act confident. He has to make decisions. He has to look like he knows exactly what he is doing, even during the moments when he is secretly trying to figure everything out himself. But when he comes home to the woman he loves, that is supposed to be the place where he can finally breathe. That is where he wants to lower the shield. That is where he wants to stop performing and simply exist as himself. Not the warrior, not the provider, not the problem solver, just the man underneath all of that pressure. And he is not going to reveal that side of himself to someone who only gives him cute names. He needs somebody who can recognize the person underneath the strength. He needs words that speak to more than his appearance. He needs words that speak to his character. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. You are saying, but I tell him I love him. I tell him he looks good. I tell him he is strong. I remind him that I believe in him, and that is wonderful. Those things matter. But let me ask you something deeper. Do you ever tell him, I respect you? Do you ever make it clear that he is emotionally safe with you? Do you let him know that he can admit when he is struggling without immediately being judged for it? Can he show you his imperfections without wondering whether you will use those weaknesses against him later? Because that is where the deeper connection begins. That is what can make a man slowly open a door that he has kept closed for years. You can call him honey every morning, but if every time he tells you something personal, you criticize him, judge him, dismiss him, or roll your eyes, those sweet words begin to lose their meaning. He hears baby coming from your mouth, but he feels distance coming from your behavior. And people notice that contradiction. That is one reason some men become quiet. That is one reason they stop explaining themselves. They stop sharing their thoughts. They stop telling you what is happening inside because they have learned that vulnerability does not feel safe there. They feel like they have to maintain an image even in the place where they should be able to relax. And let me tell you, that is not real closeness. That is a performance. Stay with me here because this next part matters. When a man genuinely feels emotionally safe around a woman, you can see a different side of him begin to appear. He may listen more carefully. He may communicate more openly. He may share things he normally keeps private. He may become more present. He may stop feeling like he has to constantly protect himself. Instead of always running from difficult conversations, he may begin learning how to build through them. But that kind of safety does not come from flattery alone. It does not come from pet names. It comes from how you respond when he is struggling, when he makes a mistake, when he feels uncertain, when something does not go according to plan, and when his confidence is not at its highest. If you can look at him during those moments and say, I respect you, not because he is flawless, but because you see that he keeps trying, that statement can land differently. I respect you carries a different kind of weight. Because in a world where a man can constantly feel measured by what he earns, what he achieves, how successful he appears, and how well he handles pressure, hearing the woman he loves recognize his effort can give him a moment of relief. It tells him that he does not have to prove his entire worth every single day. It tells him that you see the person, not just the performance. And when a man feels that kind of peace around you, something important can happen. He begins to feel like he does not need armor in your presence. He can be honest without fearing that honesty will become ammunition later. He can admit that he does not have all the answers. He can say, I am tired. He can say, I am worried. He can say, I made a mistake. And instead of feeling smaller because he showed you his humanity, he feels closer to you because you did not punish him for it. That kind of connection is powerful. But understand this clearly, emotional safety is not about agreeing with everything he says or accepting harmful behavior. It's about creating a relationship where honesty, respect, accountability, and vulnerability can exist together. That is a much stronger foundation than empty praise. And when a man feels respected and understood, he may begin associating your presence with peace instead of pressure. That is something he will remember. A man is unlikely to forget the woman who treated him like a human being during the moments when the rest of the world expected him to be a machine. He may remember the woman who saw his effort when nobody else noticed it. He may remember the woman who encouraged him without pretending he was perfect. He may remember the woman who gave him room to be honest without making him feel weak for having emotions. That is the kind of bond that grows through everyday actions. Not drama, not confusion, not games, not trying to control somebody. A real connection is built through consistency and words that match behavior. So if you want your words to carry more weight, stop repeating only what he has already heard from everybody else. Do not focus only on telling him he looks good. Tell him you appreciate his effort. Do not only tell him he is strong. Let him know you respect the way he keeps moving forward even when life gets difficult. Do not simply tell him he is enough. Show him that you are not constantly comparing him to someone else. Let him know that you notice him, that you listen, that you value what he brings into your life. That is how you communicate love in a language that goes deeper than a nickname. And everybody loves to talk about how to attract a man, how to catch his attention, how to make him notice you, how to make him want you. But here is the part people often leave out: making somebody interested in you and building a relationship that can actually last are two completely different things. Attraction can happen quickly. A glance can create curiosity. A smile can create chemistry. A few playful words can create excitement. But loyalty is built differently. Trust is built differently. Emotional closeness is built differently. You cannot create those things simply by calling somebody baby or honey. You cannot build them only by looking beautiful, laughing at every joke, or trying to stay mysterious. Those things may create attraction, but they do not automatically create a lasting bond. Loyalty grows through trust, consistency, honesty, respect, and emotional connection. And that connection begins when somebody feels that you understand more than the surface. Now let me break this down for you. Almost every man, no matter how tough he sounds, wants to be understood. He wants to feel accepted for who he actually is while still being encouraged to grow. He does not only want to feel desired, he wants to feel appreciated. He wants to know that the woman beside him sees more than what he can provide. Because a man can spend his entire life surrounded by people who want something from him. They want his time. They want his money, they want his attention, they want his strength, they want his solutions. They want something, but when he meets someone who genuinely wants to stand beside him, not simply take from him, that can feel different. And that does not mean you should never have needs or expectations. It means the relationship should not be built entirely around what one person can provide for the other. Partnership feels different when a woman says, I am with you. Instead of constantly making him feel like he has to earn her approval, he may begin looking at her in a completely different way. That is when the relationship can start feeling less like a transaction and more like a partnership. You see, when you call a man baby or honey, it can be cute, it can be affectionate, it can make him smile, but it may not move anything deeper because he has probably heard those words many times before. He may have heard them from women he dated in the past. He may have heard them from people who promised forever and disappeared. He may have heard them from people who said beautiful things but behaved completely differently when things became difficult. So the words that stay with a man are often not the words that sound the sweetest. They are the words that recognize something real about him. They are the words that tell him, I see what other people overlook. They are the words that reach beyond his appearance and touch the character he is still building. And when your words come from genuine observation, they do not need to be complicated. Sometimes a simple sentence can carry more weight than 100 romantic phrases. That is the part I want you to remember. The goal is not to find some magic phrase that controls a man or guarantees that he will stay forever. There is no sentence that can replace character, compatibility, trust, or healthy behavior. The real power is in learning how to express sincere appreciation in a way that is personal and true. When your words match your actions, they become believable. When your respect matches your behavior, it becomes felt. And when a man knows that your affection is not just a script, he can experience it differently. So yes, call him baby if that is naturally part of your relationship. Call him honey if it makes both of you smile. Keep the playful names, keep the laughter, keep the tenderness, but do not let those things become the only way you communicate love. Go deeper. Tell him what you notice. Tell him what you appreciate. Tell him what you respect. Tell him that you see his effort. Tell him that he does not have to pretend to be perfect around you. Because sometimes the most unforgettable thing you can give somebody is not a fancy compliment. It is the feeling of being genuinely understood. And when your words give somebody that feeling, they can stay in the mind long after the conversation ends. So remember this, do not just ask yourself, what name should I call him? Ask yourself, what do I see in this man that I genuinely value? What has he done that made me respect him? What part of his character deserves to be recognized? Once you know those answers, your words become more meaningful without you having to force anything. That is when affection becomes more than a routine, it becomes recognition. And that is the kind of communication people remember.